Just like every character, Ghost Rider is no exception. He's gone through his fair share of adventures. You know, he's been human, became Ghost Rider, lost Ghost Rider. Yeah, there's comics where Ghost Rider and Johnny Blaze be split up from time to time. Zarathos and him would split up. You know, it'd be moments like that. It should be noted that when Ghost Rider and Johnny Blaze are together, they are stronger indeed together. So there's actually a benefit to being bonded with Johnny Blaze. Became Ghost Rider again. There's times when the Ghost Rider will completely take over and Johnny Blaze is not in control at all. This ultra powerful Hell Lord type being Zarathos, there's times he will take over. He's became King of Hell. There was even points in his career where he was getting corrupted during this King of Hell run. Yeah. Part of the reason why he's being corrupted is because a piece of the demons was becoming a part of him and such, changing him. Just a lot of layers of Ghost Rider to dissect. I hope you guys enjoy. It's time. It's been a while since I talked about Hell Lords in Marvel. You know, beings that are on the darker side of Marvel, but they're still kind of semi-cosmic. You know, those type of beings, Hell Lord type characters. When you think of Ghost Rider, you probably think of the Ghost Rider, Johnny Blaze Ghost Rider. He's very strong in your traditional sense when it comes to hitting hard, but he has other things that make him dangerous, not just physical stuff. In a weird way, you can look at it like Ghost Rider is like two beings in one. You know, you got the human, Johnny Blaze, and then, of course, part of the reason why he's so powerful is this other entity known as Zarathos. I mean, even though there's a lot of Hell Lords become at odds with one another from time to time, so they be rivaling each other, battling for power and stuff of that such. That's how Zarathos was to Mephisto. You know, they had like a past. Mephisto ended up enslaving Zarathos, trapping him in mortal forms. And you guys basically know the rest. You know, Johnny Blaze was a motorcyclist, stated here in his lore that he's a skilled stuntman and expert cyclist, capable of impossible stunts, including riding a motorcycle on a tightrope, stuff like that. And he's an excellent marksman. Yeah, he's got really good skills on a motorcycle. That's why you're going to see that type of stuff translate over to his Ghost Rider form, him always being on a motorcycle, even though he's a supernatural entity, because he's doing this stuff before the supernatural entity stuff. Ends up making a deal with the devil. Yeah, like literally Mephisto, one of the many devils in Marvel, one of the Hell Lords in Marvel, to serve him. And it's really pretty much explained here. The death-defying Johnny Blaze, the greatest stunt rider to ever make a deal with the devil. As you can see, his human form turns flamey, and then he turns into the actual Ghost Rider, being dubbed the Ghost Rider, which gives some superhuman physical attributes, which I'm going to get to a lot in this video, not just this part. As Ghost Rider, he commands mystical flames, can do crazy stuff, like imbuing his motorcycle with flames, or literally riding up walls. I just think it's cool that he can literally make his bike ride to him when he wants to, even when he's not on it. It's like mystically connected to it, you know, has superhuman durability, can easily handle humans physically. I'm talking about physically, he's got superhuman physicals, even though I'm gonna get back to this, but this is one of the many abilities as Ghost Rider. Conventional weaponry like bullets is just a waste of time. So yeah, he has superhuman durability. And since he's actually bones, sometimes the bullets hit his bones and they just bounce off because he's durable, but sometimes bullets and a skeleton don't connect. So that's why you might not hit him sometimes. Like it's even stated here in his lore, they talk about how bullets pass through his clothing or bounce off the bone because, you know, his skeletal body. Like you can see his actual bones through his outfit. Like, yeah, he's like not flesh and blood when he's in his Ghost Rider mode. I mean, yeah, since he commands mystical flames, he's a Ghost Rider Hell Lord-esque centric type being. Why on earth would you shoot fire at him? Not only is he immune to flames, but he can actually absorb, like there was like a whole bunch of flames. He literally absorbed all that. He's a good counter against telepathic beings or beings that are sorcerer level beings, like Doctor Strange, for example. Has a hard time entering his mind in peace. Just don't enter the mind of the monster. It's like all these supernatural abilities even translate over to his human mode. Like if he goes into his human mode, for example, it doesn't matter. He's still immune to all kinds of poisons and such. And since he's a spiritual supernatural type being, you probably would think that holy stuff would give you an advantage over him. No, that's not how that works. He's not a vampire. Oh yeah, you can't just pull a spirit of vengeance out of you via exorcism. That's simply not how that works. The spirit of vengeance won't let go of your soul that easily. Even beings that have apparent death touches can't just instantly take him out. You know characters like from the X-Men lore, like Rogue, that can like pretty much touch beings and steal their abilities. This is what happens when she tries to do this to Ghost Rider. She doesn't like the way this feels, to where she said, yo, you got to take it back. Like, yeah, you don't want to absorb his power. It's too much, even with her abilities. He's very resistant to magical type stuff because of his abilities. It's even narrated that he does not breathe. Like, he's really tough to take down, guys. Like, even if you miraculously somehow injure him, guess what? Like, he's on some Wolverine type stuff when it comes to healing. He can heal fast. Like, in this occasion, he actually regrew his head, or one could say his flaming skull. Like, yeah, his regeneration is actually pretty good to where if you do miraculously injure him, he can just regrow his skull head. Like you see his leg is actually going here, for example, like you see it actually come back. Like, yeah, he can heal himself. Like, yeah, he's got fast healing factor. And apparently only God himself, like the actual God, can destroy a Ghost Rider. So yeah, one could say he has absolute immortality, one could say. There are weapons that are made that can apparently cleave Ghost Rider from their host though. And you know, he's pretty fast too. Bullets he catch in between his teeth. I mean, this is common Marvel stuff for somebody in his tier. It's natural for him to be this fast to dodge. Sniper, bullets, that shows his, you know, reflexes, of course. I mean, he is a Ghost Rider. So yeah, you know, you got to have something to ride on. He has had various different motorcycles, whether we're just talking about Johnny in his human form or in his Ghost Rider mode. He's just a motorcycle themed being. And when it comes to his flames in his motorcycle, it's literally confirmed he can create a motorcycle. Like in this particular occasion, like his motorcycle got thrashed. It literally in midair, he was able to create a brand new one that fast, recreated that quick with his hell flame. In this occasion, he even made a motorcycle out of demon bones or whatever. He can miraculously ride on water somehow. Even when he rides other vehicles, for example, he can actually make the vehicle go faster. Like, it's not supposed to go this many miles per hour. Like, you see the scale going higher than normal. Like, yeah. It's crazy that even when his motorcycle gets messed up, like in the middle of doing stuff, he can just literally like power another one up really quickly, like no time. On the spot, you guys probably already know that he can summon mystical chains, or like, you know, they got to be mystical because there's no way you can carry around all these chains all the time. They even say, do you ever run out? He can attack you with the chains, shooting them out his mouth like this, for example. One can think of these chains as extra arms or limbs or something because he can use them like to hit multiple beings, to fight a mob of beings at the same time. Crowd control type status. Like, he's already kind of sort of like the Human Torch when it comes to flame projecting. Like, he can literally blast with actual fire that can burn or meld stuff. He seems to be able to lift up stuff. Like, you see this thing right here, he's lifting up with his hell flame. He's not necessarily touching it. Yeah, it seems like he can lift up stuff with his flame and then throw it, you know. Like, I'm talking about he can literally make fireballs and just throw them at you. Can make constructs out of flame like walls or a creature of flame. Can make raining hellfire to cover a wide radius. Fires like his own hellfire bullet or missile out of his mouth. He made like his own little fiery vortex by spinning around with flame to slow Spider-Man's descent. Like literally on some Human Torch stuff, like his whole body's flame type stuff, you know. We've seen Ghost Rider consistently blast flame from his mouth to hit multiple people with it. Other beings that have Zarathos show lightning projections, so there's a good chance that Johnny Blaze Ghost Rider, if the writers wanted to so choose, they could give him lightning manipulation too if they wanted to, or electricity manipulation. What do you think? Literally explained in this story, for example, about the hosts other than Johnny Blaze, same being, Zarathos though. So don't be surprised if I bring this up over and over. Bringing up her feats for Ghost Rider seems fair since it's the same being, Zarathos, you know. He seems to have earth manipulation type stuff, like he can literally trap beings in rock or trap beings in earth. He literally said he's being given control of the elements themselves. That's why he's able to use the earth to impale you if needed. But like, this is where the hexy stuff gets in. This is where he gets hexy. He can not only burn stuff, like the traditional way of just setting stuff on fire. Like, that's the traditional way you can burn stuff. He can do that too, but his flames can get kind of hexy, mystical type stuff. Like in this occasion, they call it, he unleashes cold flame that tortures your soul and doesn't necessarily burn your body in the traditional sense. Stated that the cold flame can sear the soul. Like, it can mess up your emotions or just, one could say, willpower, like making Captain America, for example, somebody that has impressive willpower. They bite deep in his soul. It can make Captain America feel miserable, basically. You guys probably know of the famous penance stare. They describe it like a mystical penance stare that forces his victim to experience a lifetime of pain, sorrow, guilt, and their own misdeeds all at once, often leaving the victim in a catatonic state, affecting beings who have a soul. He's done this penance stare to sorcerer type beings like Dr. Voodoo. His hacks, as one could say, is one of the reasons why this can make him a powerhouse. I mean, this pretty much is dangerous against anybody. Even Doctor Strange. Yeah, Doctor Strange looking jacked up. He can kind of use the penance stare to interrogate you to make you tell him what he needs to know. And it kind of can tell what you really are. It can reveal the truth. He can kind of see in your head with the penance stare to see the truth. One could say he has attacks that kind of say forget durability. Like, your durability doesn't matter when the guy literally says, I'm invulnerable, you can't hurt me. But Ghost Rider says, this penance stare can definitely hurt you. Feel a pain that will tear at your mind and your soul for as long as your invulnerable body lives. Ghost Riders kind of have super senses, saying he can smell things he's done. He can cover a wide radius with a penance stare. Like, I'm talking about an entire city worth. Countless souls bent backwards, suffer for their sins. Doctor Strange could protect from it, but not for long. Don't sleep on him in his human mode. You would be surprised of how decent he can fight without necessarily relying on Ghost Rider when it comes to punching beings out. Even if you're an assassin, he would just punch you and give you the hands the old-fashioned way. What, is he superhuman or something? How the heck did he toss this guy this far? And even when he's wounded, like, he literally got stuck with, like, literal arrows. Yep. Even though y'all got weapons and he doesn't, he still said, get off and let me get your ride. Like, even beings that are not human, like, we've seen him use, like, legit fighting skills to get the upper hand over beings this big, for example. Yeah, curb stomping. Ain't that funny? But yeah, he can fight like this. So what do you think all that's going to translate over to when he's like this? Of course, he can fight like this too, on top of his natural supernatural abilities. Back to his supernatural abilities real quick. Like, here's the thing. Ghost Rider has mystical elements, but he's not like an actual sorcerer or magic type character. Like, he's a Hell Lord being that's mystical-esque, if that makes sense. So he's not like a spell caster like that. Like, he even said it himself, spells are not his specialty. Y'all sure y'all don't want to get Dr. Strange or Dr. Voodoo? Because he tried to transport beings and it shows that is not his specialty because he says, oops, didn't mean to do that. Like, even though he doesn't specialize in magic, when it comes to magical type of bindings or enchantments, he can use his Hell Flame to get rid of it. So yeah, his Hell Flames can get rid of magical stuff without him actually casting spells. And it appears he can actually get larger. Look at the size of him compared to beings like Thor, like, for example. Yeah. I mean, just look at this occasion on how big he is compared to normal people. You know, he can get big. Like, in this particular occasion, he literally got shrunk. And by the sheer force of unholy will, he apparently grows back to normal size that quickly. Ghost Rider basically has different levels of power depending on the circumstances, based on how if Zarathos wants to take over or not. Like, don't get me wrong, even when Johnny Blaze is in full control, he's still a powerhouse tier like this. But when Zarathos decides to completely take over, that's where he really becomes a powerhouse. One could say even surpass our favorite powerhouses. It kind of reminds me of how Banner limits the Hulk. It kind of reminds me of that. Johnny Blaze is that limiter. One could say Johnny Blaze is that limiter. Doctor Strange, somebody that's really knowledgeable on magical entities and stuff like that, pretty much talks about how Johnny Blaze, you know, he's a host for the Ghost Rider. He's basically a built-in safety, limits the Ghost Rider's powers simply due to the fact that he's human. Yeah, so yeah, there's definitely power differences between Ghost Rider and when Zarathos takes over. So it's pretty much an unspoken rule, unless the comic literally says Zarathos is coming out, or if Johnny Blaze decides to surrender his, you know, this lets him take full throttle. Like Zarathos takes full throttle, we gotta assume Ghost Rider is kind of restricting himself or kind of holding back majority of the time. It's even stated here, he doesn't want it to take over. So yeah, it lets you know that most of the time he's holding back a lot. Against certain godly beings, he has to go full throttle against, of course. You know, there's times where he takes over because there's sometimes where Johnny Blaze doesn't even know where he's at. That means Zarathos took full control. There's no like exact official multiplier on how much stronger he gets when Zarathos takes over. We just know he just gets significantly more amplified. But he's powerhouse regardless though, right? Don't be surprised if you hear me bouncing back and forth between normal Ghost Rider feats and Zarathos. You know, just getting it out there. Same being. Anyway, when it comes to his physical muscles, I mean, well, technically he doesn't have muscles. He's a skeleton. But like Spider-Man himself even said, how can a skeleton with no muscles be this strong? Yep. Despite him not having no muscles, he's still decently strong, even though that's not what he specializes in. He's still strong in other ways. I'm going to get to that. But yeah, he's physically strong too, technically. Humans, y'all just get slung that far. And teaming up on him won't make a difference. What's a whole bunch of ants teaming up going to do, you know? Like, he can just literally stop a car by just stopping it from ramming into him with his physical strength. Things that are like literally engraved in the ground, we can literally see him rip out of the ground, like tombstones. You try to lift a motorcycle up and toss it this far and see that you can't do it. Trust me, you can't. Or literally lift up cars and toss them this far. Like, you definitely can't do that. You see these doors like this, for example, he can just rip apart, even though it's made of solid steel. So yeah, he's clearly superhuman physically. Like, there's just too much evidence of it. So with all this super strength, it's obvious he can punch really hard. He's not just hacks. He can just stick you with his concussive force of his punches too. Like, I'm talking about punching your head off type strong. I mean, all that physical stuff I already showed you. This shouldn't be no surprise. The side of a truck, we literally seen him punch through. One could say these punches could be amplified by his hellfire or concussive flame he can project out. One could say that too. But yeah, he can make a big crater from punching in the ground too. So I'm pretty sure I don't have to convince you that he can punch through concrete or brick walls, right? I mean, that should be a no duh, right? I mean, look how he treats doors, kicking them down. Like, yeah, that's easy stuff. He treats cars and buses like butter. Like, he literally can melt through them, like just slide through them. Like, with a combination of stuff like this with his motorcycle and stuff, he can literally drag literal trains or train cars if he wants to. Like, this has got to be over several tons. He can just ram into you with his bike. You guys know how durable tanks are. There's evidence he could literally ram into a building and destroy it with ease based on occasions like this by literally riding through a tank and splitting it in half. Like, he can just literally casually fly into a tank, ride into a tank, and just split it down the middle. I'm just saying, that's a lot of concussive force. I mean, one can look at it, part of the reason why he can like ram into stuff and bust it up is because of how fast he can ride if he wants to. Like, for example, these beings were racing. Like, there's no specific time frame, but there's definitely implications. This was like pretty fast. It was racing around the entire planet over the bodies of water, ocean. You can literally see it. Just imagine being hit by somebody that can literally ride around the world. And by somebody that can outrun Thor's hammer for a little while. Like, imagine getting hit by a being that has the speed to ride his thing around the earth in no time. Imagine how hard that hit would feel. I mean, you got occasions like this, chopping stuff up. There's implications he can amp up whatever he's touching, you know, by slicing it, flame around it, you know. Like, you got on occasions like this, where he just randomly picks up this junk on the side, and it turns into like a mystical weapon he can use to cut you up with. Even if the entity's bigger than himself, size means nothing. Like, he can get on this elephant being and turn him basically into a flaming ride. We've seen him hit hard with literal chains, like, you know, the signature chains I brought up already. We've seen him restrain beings with it, but we also seen him use his chains like kind of like helicopter blades, mixing in his fire projection with it to like kind of tunnel through solid rock and stuff, like literally chipping it away. We've seen him use these chains mixed with his flame projection and everything put together like this too. You know, you got certain occasions where Zarathos takes over, and we know he can just slice up planes with his mystically flamed on chain. We've seen his chains extend and have the concussive force to literally slice through an actual building. Yeah, he can totally level buildings with ease, just with concussive force. Not even talking about flame stuff, just hitting hard enough he can level buildings. Lifting is one thing, punching is another thing, using weapons is another thing. Ghost Rider is one of those beings that can put energy around his weapons to amplify it, but blast power is another thing. Ghost Rider has, you know, blast power. I brought up earlier Hellfire, of course. His concussive force is pretty crazy. Like in this occasion, we see him literally melt tanks, for example. He made a wide energy projective type of blast that quite literally encompassed the theme park. Like, you see how the roller coasters look in comparison to his explosion. This is like, one can say, an idea of blast power, what Ghost Rider has. He has a lot of energy projective blast power. You got occasions like this where Ghost Rider pretty much proved he could level an entire city block, making a gargantuan explosion like this with his energy projection in this particular occasion with the Hulk. We've even seen his blast get so crazy, it's literally confirmed Ghost Rider can actually level an entire mountain with his blast power. So it's literally proven his blast can actually level mountains. I guess we can assume his punches could do something similar because he can just put his flames around his fist and then punch you with his flame projected fist or stuff. Same with his chains, stuff like that. Mountain trembling or destructive power to destroy a mountain, you know. This being that is inside of Johnny Blaze, the reason why he's Ghost Rider, this being has been inside others other than Johnny Blaze too. Not just him, but he's been in other beings as well. You can kind of get an idea of this Ghost Rider by what he has done in other bodies. When he was possessing other bodies, been in more than one body, of course, other than Johnny Blaze. You can get an idea of his blast power, Johnny Blaze's blast power based on this. Like, leveling mountains is just scratching the surface of these Ghost Riders' blast power because they've actually been shown to produce blasts so crazy, like flame blasts on a ridiculously large scale. This is something that Johnny Blaze should be able to do too, because this is the same entity Zarathos that's possessing her. She made an energy blast that pretty much covered pretty much the entire country. So yeah, they can definitely level countries with their blast power. They said it wasn't a nuke. So if Zarathos can do this over here, I don't see no reason why he wouldn't be able to do this over here. You know, Zarathos is crazy. Yeah, so I wouldn't want to mess with a Ghost Rider. He could just level the entire country with a massive fire blast if he wanted to. With his blast power. I know Johnny Blaze himself didn't do that there, but it's kind of the same entity. So he should be able to do something similar, you know. Leveling countries and stuff is cool and all, but that's still nothing when you're a powerhouse in Marvel. There's implications he's way above that by the beings he has to fight. Like, he has to fight other Hell Lords. So right off gate, bringing up other Hell Lords to really determine his true raw concussive power is a better way to understand his true might. Like, we've seen him punch, battle, deal with other Hell Lords with his straight punches or just blast power, blasting holes through some and everything. You can get an idea of how strong he is based on his durability against top tiers too. They wouldn't have him competing with these sorcerers this much if he wasn't a powerhouse. I mean, I wouldn't say Spider-Man's a Hulk level being or nothing, but yeah, Spider-Man's hits just bounce off of him. Like, he's too strong with Spider-Man durability wise. Blasting hurt Iron Man and Dr. Doom with his blast power through their armor, might I add. Everybody in Marvel has respect for the Hulk. In this particular occasion, he got a W on the Hulk with his flame or blast power, thanks to back in these days, Hulk actually needed oxygen and air to breathe. So he took out the Hulk that way, which is kind of impressive still, even though it was via hacks because Hulk couldn't breathe without no oxygen. It's actually stated on panel, confirmed with his blast power, like narration, talk about the raw blast power he has, talk about how the air, the earth, the dimensional walls themselves quake before the rage of Zarathos. Is it really shocking that his blast can do such a thing, like shake the earth itself? Shouldn't that be expected? When it comes to muscle strength, I think everybody agrees Hulk has the advantage. When it comes to other stuff, the muscle strength doesn't really matter. He can still blast and hurt beings on this Hulk's range with his blast power. Matter of fact, when it comes to Doctor Strange's opinion, somebody that's fought the Hulk plenty of times and knows the Hulk pretty well, they asked, could Ghost Rider actually defeat the Hulk? He said, possibly yes. They say Ghost Rider's powers are, for the most intents and purposes, boundless, they say, he says. And which I already brought up earlier is that he's limited most of the time, but when Zarathos comes out, he can cause catastrophic damage. I mean, Doctor Strange literally confirmed. I mean, this shouldn't be nothing in Marvel. I shouldn't have to convince you of this, but yeah, most powerhouses in Marvel are planet busters. Like, they literally say Ghost Rider's raw power. He has world-breaking power in him. I know this is just a quote, but it should probably be taken literally considering how strong the beings he has to consistently fight and the stuff they can do. Like, it just makes sense. Like, as far as I see it, when it comes to planetoids like the moon, he could tremble, destroy. A moon is the size of a planet, a small planetoid. Earth's like a normal sized planet, I would say. Standard stuff from Marvel, they say he has world-breaking power. It's one of those situations, I don't really think it matters which form he's in. Even if he's in his base, normal, suppressed form, I still think he can do stuff like this based on the powerhouse he has to always fight. Zarathos fully controlled, or even when he's not fully controlled, you know. I mean, you got the beings he be fighting like multiple Avengers, but Thor in particular, somebody we know on the channel, can destroy planets. We've seen him getting in scuffles with, hit viciously by Thor, and Thor just can't put him down with ease. Like, it just kind of lets you know they would not portray him given this many Avengers issues, like including Thor, if he wasn't on his level. And yeah, just watch my Thor video to understand why this is impressive. You know Thor's crazy. Man Thing, Marvel has their own version of Swamp Thing, basically. Yeah. Trying to consume the writer, and he just blasts him off. Somebody else we know is a beast. Saying he's only planet busting level is just disrespectful. This is like our bare minimum. Like, for example, this isn't Johnny Blaze, but this just gives you an idea of how strong Ghost Riders can be to Hulkish type beings. You know, he eventually got pushed back, but the fact he was able to resist his punch for a while lets you know Ghost Riders are pretty durable. Even though in this particular situation, this isn't Johnny Blaze, though. See, these are the beings that Ghost Rider got to compete against. Supernatural beings like Lucifer. By the laws of the mortal plane, these laws are much different than the immortal plane, much smaller. Beings of Lucifer's caliber, celestial body, is not supposed to be in this earthly plane. But when he came to this plane, his power and body was split because he's not supposed to be here. He disintegrated like a falling star, possessing beings, reawakening them. If you get rid of all of this, he would become closer to his true self. And the way they described it, they show like him like looking like a celestial cosmic being here. Like, yeah, they're implying that he could mess up an entire planet at least. That's being disrespectful if we're being honest. This gives you a greater example of Zarathos' might. Like, he's literally punching Doctor Strange's shield. Doctor Strange literally says, I can't hold this for long with his strength. Like, that lets you know how hard Zarathos can punch. Somebody like Doctor Strange, we know he's way above planet shattering levels when it comes to his blast power or just shields and stuff. Like, that's just a no-brainer. Perhaps the best way to understand Ghost Rider's might, Zarathos' might, when he's not weakened. Let me repeat that again. When he's not weakened, like, yeah, he was weakened here when Mephisto did this to him. So yeah, when he's not weakened, he can actually hang with Mephisto. Like in this occasion when back in the old comics, he got in a fight with Mephisto and lost here. Like, Mephisto's not no slouch. So losing to Mephisto isn't really nothing to be embarrassed about or nothing. But there's times where, you know, Zarathos' power varies to where he will lose to Mephisto certain times. Like here, for example, but depending on the circumstances, he can actually bridge the gap. Like this time when, this wasn't Johnny Blaze, of course, but it's kind of the same concept. Zarathos was in possession of somebody else. And this occasion, you see him, he was powered up enough to actually fight Mephisto. Like, you see, this is not an easy fight. It's a slugfest trading blows. In his homestead, actually ripped in Mephisto's chest. Something that Johnny Blaze possessed Ghost Rider should be able to do if he allowed Zarathos to take over. To show in certain circumstances, he can definitely, or the Ghost Rider, Zarathos in general, can hang with top tier Helllord, Skyfather type beings like Mephisto himself in his own realm. So in a weird way, depending on the situation, these are the type of situations where they can feed on vengeance, get more power, endless souls that want revenge. This kind of stuff can power the Ghost Rider Zarathos up, depending on no matter which host really. To be able to slugfest with Mephisto kind of lets you know the true power of a Ghost Rider fighting him. in his own place. Like, you see him at the gates of hell here. Just to give you an idea of how powerful beings like Mephisto is, it's stated that apparently if you get rid of him, reality itself will rip apart. There has to be a hell, apparently. This is the type of scope of power these hell lords are. I'll just give you a reference. It's like Ghost Rider and Mephisto trades wins. I mean, you got occasions like this where Mephisto wins with ease. So I guess it depends on the circumstances. But then you got occasions like this where he ties up Mephisto and got him literally on a leash, like a pet type thing. Mephisto is the same being that we've seen get advantages over super powerful beings like Silver Surfer, to the point it's kind of hard to disrespect his might. Silver Surfer, we know somebody that can show off suns exploding in their face. Silver Surfer, don't forget somebody that's so powerful, he can make blasts that are so wide. You pretty much got to be light years away to be safe from the radius of it. I'm talking about blast of energy that is as wide as a galaxy. I'm just saying, like this type of stuff Mephisto taking on, and this is what Ghost Rider has to compete with beings like Mephisto. Dr. Doom, somebody that's really smart, says his power could destroy a galaxy. Mephisto is a being fighting other Helllord type characters. I'm just giving you an understanding of how strong Ghost Rider would have to even be in his ballpark when he's powered up like this. Mephisto is a being in his clash with another Helllord is like Satanish. These two titans battling each other. It was stated when these two was clashing blast and stuff and blasting each other, they was producing so much concussive force that the blast, they stated that the whole dimension will be in psychic shreds if they were to continue. They even said not only is this dimension breaking into pieces like a basement child's toy, but the power is actually leaking over to another universe to where the main Marvel universe was in jeopardy. So 2 dimensions basically was in jeopardy, or universes was in jeopardy. And this is who Ghost Rider got on a leash. Or Zarathos has fought depending on certain situations, this being Mephisto's this mighty. Just in case you think the stuff I've been saying is an exaggeration, a war between these two Helllord type beings like Hell and Mephisto would cause an apparent omniversal Armageddon. So it lets you know these beings are way past just universe shattering. We've actually seen Ghost Rider take on other Helllords in their own realm, by the way, with his blasts and stuff. So just to give you an idea of that. And the fact throughout comics, he's got like a little rivalry, got weakened by Mephisto, traded blows with Mephisto depending on certain power levels, got him on a leash here, for example, like depending on the circumstances or depending on what we're talking about in his career, he can match a being like this. Matching Helllord type beings like Mephisto is way past the power needed to destroy the Earth. Even things like the sun, which make the Earth look like a joke when it comes to comparing sizes, he's competing with beings that can easily destroy the sun, the entire galaxy, even threaten the universe, threaten it even more than one universe. Like Ghost Rider's competing with a being that not only can threaten one universe over here, but their power will leak out and even threaten another universe. And then if you have your doubts about Ghost Rider's power, even if we're not talking about Mephisto, we've seen him take hits and get the advantage of what being like Thor. Someone we know, based on my Thor video, is clashing with another Thor can make a big bang type of impact. So that stretch across the whole universe. So yeah, Doctor Strange even goes as far as saying Ghost Rider's very existence on this plane and the power that he so callously wields threatens all known realms, both mortal and immortal. During this event when Johnny was King of Hell, they was kind of discussing ways on how they could help Doctor Strange get amplified up or powered up. Johnny Blaze pretty much says, oh, you do know I have all those Avenger souls still lying around. Would he want an Avenger soul to give him a little bit of extra power or extra juice? He said, no, not one of them. Just give him all the souls. To basically help give Doctor Strange a ridiculous power-up to fight Mephisto one-on-one, it just kind of lets you know how crazy he is as the King of Hell. You can just amp him up to the point where you can just kind of do it by himself. Doctor Strange is already powerful in his own, but imagine Doctor Strange amplified up. And they thought he had escaped, just to find out Mephisto didn't really escape. He found himself in the face of like a whole bunch of different Ghost Riders across time and space. And that's when the heroes had to put him in a demonic magical restraint in place that would keep a demonic Hulk in line. As the King of Hell, there's definitely high implications. He's a top tier Helllord type character. One could say whatever Mephisto could do before, he could do too. I've already showed how Mephisto fighting other Helllords can threaten multiple universes or more than one dimension. Just from the collateral of them fighting, King of Hell Ghost Rider should be able to do similar, blah, 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 blah. Multiple Helllord dimension trembling might. I mean, this is just standard Marvel stuff at this point. I mean, I'm not going to lie. It is so weird seeing Mephisto get bullied around like this. And oh, did I fail to mention, in this King of Hell state, he has this thing known as the Damnation Stare. It's kind of like the King of Hell version of the Penance Stare. But of course, he never stays like the ruler of Hell, of course. He goes back to being the normal Ghost Rider that we're used to, But what do you guys think? Did you know Ghost Rider was this mighty? You probably did. A lot of people respect his might. He can hang with the top tier Helllords that can threaten multiple universes just from them fighting with each other. I mean, we're not even going to mention the fact that Helllords in their realm, Johnny Blaze was a ruler of hell for a while, there's implications he could be like similar to Mephisto about how the dimension itself is him. They reign supreme. Like stated here, my realm is me. I mean, I don't want to get too cosmic because that stuff gets confusing, but yeah, they're like conceptual type beings. Yeah, and these are the type of beings that Ghost Rider had to compete against. Mephisto's one of those type of beings used in this example to explain. They're like ideas, they're literal conceptual type beings. Mere humans can't perceive them in the way you would think you and I should. You know, that kind of stuff. But before I get going, everybody, respect his multiple universe trembling hellfire might. And I gotta say, thanks for the donations, everybody. It helps out a lot. Respect Ghost Rider, though, especially Johnny Blaze. I'm glad you are enjoying your time on the channel. Make sure you check out the playlist on the channel to see other How Strong videos. If you like what this channel is offering, make sure you hit that subscribe button, and I will see you guys later.